Houston Texans football is officially back. The preseason is almost here. The pads, they're a-popping. Things are happening at training camp, and we're talking about it tonight on the Locked On Texans Squad Show.
It's your boy, John Hickman. Squad Show is back, and I am ready to discuss, in my opportunity to be out there at camp, who stood out the most to me. And you know we definitely got to talk about Clowney coming back to H-Town. Let's get to it.
Yeehaw! It's time for the Texans Squad. Everything Houston Texans, every week. Bringing you the big hits, game-changing plays, and all the action straight from the Lone Star State. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Saddle up and squad up. It's the Texans Squad Show, starting now.
And welcome to the Locked On Texans Squad Show live on a Monday night because, well, that's what we're doing here this week is we're going to come to you a couple of times. Michael Connor and John Hickman here with you for this squad show tonight. Thank you for joining us, as always, on the YouTube page here. Make sure that you're subscribed to it. Come back, watch us when we're live for the next one and the next one and the next one. Make sure you're checking out John's daily work with the Locked On Texans Daily Show as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Join all the action at FanDuel.com to play dingers, daily dingers, and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer this MLB season. All right, John, training camp's here. You have been out there. What is your, before we get into all the nitty gritty of it, what was your takeaway of the vibe of the team in this first week of camp out there in the Houston Heat, which I'm back in, by the way. It's fantastic to be back in the Houston Heat.
You know, a great poet once said, and this poet's name is Leon Thomas, vibes don't lie like a mouth do. So I'm not going to lie to y'all. In my experiences out there, the energy right now I think is amazing. I think you finally see, just watching D'Amico Ryans, at times when I go to camp and I go to these practices where I'm at whatever around the Texans, there's moments and periods when I get really quiet and I just observe.
Mm-hmm.
And watching D'Amico Ryans and Nick Caley, but more so D'Amico, you can see him moving around as if this was the vision I've been trying to create offensively since 2023. I know it's taken 3 years to get to this point, but the physicality that the offensive line is playing with right now, I think is the best we've seen in the D'Amico Ryans era. And I think because of that, we're seeing the offensive line, the running back group flourish a lot more in 26 compared to where we saw in 2025. That was just a bad overall group led by Nick Chubb, who's coming off injury. He was of age, a little bit older, banged up back. And the Houston Texans really need Woody Marks to kind of perform a little bit better. Don't forget, Dameon Pierce was on his roster to kick off last season. But the vibes for me, it does just feel like D'Amico Ryans is in a space right now where what he is seeing is what he's wanted to see for the last couple of seasons. And that is physicality, intensity, tenacity on both sides of the football.
Is it finally just – it's not been a lot of practices so far, obviously. Right. Is it finally where the physicality – because every year we always make this joke when we're doing this show is that you guys are going to come back and tell me that, hey, defense kicks the offense's butt again today. Same old, same old. Is it finally at the point where you're mentioning the physicality, where the physicality genuinely can match the level of physicality of a defense that's been as physical as anybody in the last few years? So
here's the thing. When we talk about the Houston Texans defense, we still have to keep in mind this is the best defense in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. So the level of physicality they play with, most teams don't play with. That said, last couple of years, we would come on a show, we'll do the squad show, or I do a show with Cody Davis, my former co-host. And for the first couple of weeks, it would be the defense dominated. Well, today, based on reports and talking with Miss Kim Davis and seeing all of the things that Jonathan Alexander has put out there and DJ Bieniemy and all of the other great Texan media members, the feeling is the defense had a good day. They won the day. But the offense punched back. And it wasn't a punch here or two where you may see some of these guys that may just jab once to move out of the way. No, there were moments where they were also extremely physical. There were moments where you would see a Woody Marks or David Montgomery pop off for a long run. There were moments where, with the pressure, simulated by the defense, you will see CJ Stroud make a quicker read from the quarterback position. So I think that is the most encouraging thing for me, because do we expect for the Houston Texans offense to just come right out of the gate and win days over the defense? No, you don't. But what you do want to hear and see are the progresses day in and day out, where they're starting to stack wins. And I think day one in practice was a good day for the Houston Texans offense.
Yeah, I like this tweet from Jonathan Alexander today. Now, you don't love when teams are fighting, of course, but it says, biggest fight of camp happens after Wade Woodis slams Jawar Jordan to the ground. Seemed excessive from the rookie. Offense took exception and pushed Woodis, pushed Woodis. That doesn't make sense. But a scuffle ensued between multiple players. In the past, would the offense respond that way? Honestly, would they fight back if they're mad at the defense that way?
I mean, you remember the Green Bay Packer game, right?
Yeah.
All right, remember that? Remember when CJ got popped and there was nobody to be found?
Nope.
But Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
Right, and so no, I don't think we wouldn't have got that in the past. And here's the thing: most people, and we talked about this here on this show, and Stan would be livid at the conversation that I'm about to bring up. But most people will look at the departure of Laremy Tunsil at the start of last season and Titus Howard this season and will scratch their head and wonder why would they move on from these players. And I will always say, it's not that they're not good players. It's that what this team wants to really do and the identity that this offense wants to have, that's not where they excel. I talked to Titus Howard last year, and he even mentioned, like, we got to be better in short yardage situations. The offensive line has been poor in short yardage situations since Nick Caserio took over. The feeling now is, because of the physicality, because of the attitude, the play style, and also just these guys coming in year two. And it's not just Keelan Rutledge. Trent Brown is in the best shape we've ever seen him in. Wyatt Teller is in some good shape right now. Ariante Ursary, he's playing some good football. So it's just the entire offensive line that's shifted. And you kind of got to move on from some guys to get to where you are now. The Houston Texans did that, but this is a completely different OL compared to the last several seasons here in Houston.
So do you think when we get to the point of the preseason, we're going to talk Jadeveon Clowney here in the next segment. I want to give that plenty of room, him returning to the Houston Texans, which, by the way, he will apparently wear number 90 for the Texans. But do you think when we get to the point where we watch them play preseason football, and however much preseason football it's going to be, in terms of starters, we don't know. I would like personally a little bit more preseason football for the starters, because why not get the chemistry going? I know that they love, the joint practices and the controlled environments and all that, but whatever. Do you think that we're going to get to that point though, where we watch them in preseason and go, man, there's a mark of just a completely clear difference in what the football team looks like? Because you're saying that they do look all that physical, but do you think there's going to be a real difference in the production that we see when it comes to preseason football?
I think we got to wait and see, but I'm going to say yes. I think we'll see a foundation of what that looks like in their first preseason game. And here's the thing, like, look at this, MC. Trent Brown has been starting.
Mm-hmm.
Who did they sign in the offseason? Braden Smith.
Yep.
Right? And also the Texans brought in 5 new offensive linemen between the draft and free agency. So even if we don't see the starters, we're going to see some Fabechi Nwayu out of Oklahoma. We're going to see some Evan Brown. We're going to see one of those tackles, whether it be Trent Brown or Braden Smith, right? I think we're going to see some Blake Fisher, right? We're going to see one. If we don't see David Montgomery, we're going to see a Woody Marks. And I'm going to tell you right now, the person that stood out the most to me is Jawar Jordan in that backfield. Like, David Montgomery has played he's been great for Houston. Woody Marks has been great for Houston. But Jawar Jordan's play has been so good to me in training camp, practice. And I mean, you take it with a grain of salt, where this feels like Houston's best running back group in the DeMeco Ryans era. And I know the Texans had Joe Mixon for 1 year. But after Joe Mixon, There was nobody else in that group that you really wanted to see on the field. Where this year, it feels like obviously Montgomery's going to be the lead guy, but you're definitely going to see Woody Marks in the field. You're not going to be mad when you see Jawad Jordan. So we're going to see one of those guys play. We're going to see the tight ends play. Marlon Klein, Brevin Jordan. We're going to get a lot of those guys. Cade Stover. So I think we're going to see the physicality change in game one. And I think once we get to game two of the preseason, where typically we'll see the starters play a couple more drives, that's where we'll see how the entire product changes, because we're seeing guys that are slated to start.
The next thing that in terms of headlines that have come out of it early on, and you talk about guys that are going to play, one of the hot topics always is Tank Dell. We've seen him out there now. How much do you think we're going to see Tank Dell when it comes to actually playing real football in the preseason?
I don't think we will.
Not at all?
No, I don't. I was told the Texans are going to be extremely cautious with him. And so I think practice is a little bit different, right? But when it comes to – they want to get him in meaningful games. And the preseason is extremely meaningful, right? But do you want to risk Tank? The answer to that question is no. So I think this is going to be a slow process to us seeing Tank Dell play some live in-game football.
It's just nice to see his name out there. See him
Listen,
move around.
I was at the Friday practice last week in the bubble. They had the Houston Texans offense. They was down on the other side of the field. We were kind of blocked off, so we couldn't necessarily see it. But I'm watching C.J. Stroud drop a beauty in the bucket over defender's head. And I'm like, who is that? And I see Tank. And so I think Texan fans, like, my takeaway would be, number one, the chemistry is still there. CJ knows his guy. I know it's been 2 years, but he knows his guy. But also what Tank brings in terms of, like, just a different element to that offense, if he's your fifth best receiver, I think you're in a good spot. I really do think you're in a good spot. But the Texans won't put him out there in, I don't think, any game that's not meaningful. And I'll even say, what does week one look like? Do we see an active Tank Dell, especially whenever Jalen Noah returns from his finger injury? He's coming along up to speed as well. Do they risk him putting out there in week one against Buffalo? How long will it take for us to see Tank? And then how long will it take for us to see a Tank without the shackles playing, on his leg or whatever, holding him back? So let's tailor our expectations, but he does look good. And I think that's the best takeaway. He does look good.
That is a beautiful, beautiful thing to hear for a man that has unfortunately had some very significant injuries that we've all been witness to on the football field throughout his early NFL career. All right, there's a guy coming back to town, number 90. We mentioned it. His name is Jadeveon Clowney. What does this signing mean? How much of an impact should we expect out of him this season? We're talking about all the angles of Jadeveon Clowney being back with the team that drafted him number 1 overall back in 2014. We're doing that here in a brief moment on the Locked On Texans Squad show. Before we get to that Clowney conversation, though, cooking is never the most exciting thing. Life gets busy. Figuring out what's for dinner every night, it's not the most exciting thing. Well, it's going to be easier for you now with Home Chef. They take the stress out of mealtime by delivering fresh ingredients and easy-to-follow recipes right to your front door. I could use it tonight and tell you that. Whether you're looking to eat healthier, save money on takeout, or simply spend less time grocery shopping and meal planning, Home Chef makes cooking at home simple, convenient, and enjoyable. Home Chef offers more than 30 meal options every week, including calorie-conscious and GLP-1 friendly meals. So there's something for every schedule and lifestyle, and people really love it. Home Chef is number 1 rated by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Honestly, I had one of those weeks where everything was back to back to back. Everything's just going. When that happens, you put Home Chef right there in the fridge. You get it going. Absolute game changer for you to eat every single night. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. That's homechef.com/lockedonnfl for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/lockedonnfl. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Texan Squad Show, Michael Connor and John Hickman here with you as the Texans are underway in terms of training camp. We've gotten all the fun preseason speeches, Cal and Hannah out there doing their thing on the field. Now it's time to get down to the nitty gritty. It's time to start actually playing some football. They'll be on the football field on the 13th. That is what day is that next week, John? I don't even know what day that is.
Thursday.
Next Thursday night against the Los Angeles Chargers, which will be fun to see. They play the 13th, the 20th, and the 28th for the preseason before they kick things off on the 13th of September at home. We already heard D'Amico Ryans in one of his speeches that they put out on Instagram the other day talking about the Bills opener and all that. One guy that will be joining them for that opener and for this preseason actually is the former number 1 overall pick, David Clowney, back in a Texans uniform, telling the Chronicle that he picked the Texans over more lucrative and more playing time offers in other places. He wants to be back home. It's so weird how it happens to so many of those guys. They come here and then they just never leave. He's one of the many athletes that's happened to. But back in a Texans uniform, John, were you surprised? What was your thought when they made the announcement? I know that we've brought his name up before. Yeah. I never really personally thought it was going to be a realistic thing. And here you go. A guy who actually had a very productive season last year for the Dallas Cowboys is back in a Texans uniform.
Caught a lot of flack on social media early in this summer because I said if many people are holding C.J. Stroud to the make it or break it standard, then they also need to hold Nick Caserio to the make it or break it standard. That said, you guys have heard me say, and I think we've had a conversation around this topic, this is Nick Caserio's best offseason. And I say that because obviously coming out of that Patriot game, you knew that, okay, the offensive line needs to be better, the run game needs to be better. 5 new offensive linemen, upgraded their running back room with David Montgomery. Also, you upgraded their tight end spot. So it seemed like this offseason, it was clear for Caserio, for D'Amico, and everybody aligned that if we see a weakness, we address their weakness. And I'm going to be honest with you. Will and Daniil, we already know what they're going to do, right?
Yeah.
But after those guys, we mentioned Derek Barnett not coming back, Danico Autry not coming back, and then you look at Houston signing Robinson in the offseason, and it feels like another Darrell Taylor situation. Yes, they brought in Logan Hall, but Logan Hall, they view him as an inside D tackle, a guy that can go in and out, but they want to play him as some B gap. Essentially, what I'm getting at is the edge rusher depth was a weakness for Houston. Similar to the linebacker depth. They lost E.J. Speed. They lose Jake Hansen. They went out and signed a veteran linebacker who has some great special team experience and has some good years with the Cleveland Browns in New England. But I love bringing Clowney back. And here's the thing. It's not just a reunion for the sake of nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Last 3 seasons, Jadeveon Clowney over 20 and a half sacks. I think he's at 23, maybe.
Yeah, like 8
67 pressures.
Like that last year for the Cowboys.
Yeah, man. And he's doing it playing 55% of his defensive snaps on average through those 3 years.
I was about to say, it was perfect. Even lower last year. It was like 40-something%.
That's even perfect because what the Houston Texans ask of their D linemen, because of how fast and physical they play, they rotate those guys a lot. What Houston looks for is guys that can impact in their playing time. Jadeveon Clowney over the last 3 years has been an impactful player in his playing time. I think he's a perfect addition. No, this is not, bringing in D-Hop, right, with the nostalgia. No, this ain't none of that, right, because you bring in D-Hop and you ask yourself, what would D-Hop do in 2026 for the Houston Texans? Jadeveon is a real threat at the edge spot, and landing him back in Houston, I think is perfect. It could be a storybook ending to a great career for the former number 1 pick.
What kind of role do you think it is? I mean, obviously it's a reserve role, but I mean, is it hand in the dirt? We've seen him do all kinds of things forever. Is it hand in the dirt, playing in a spot that Will or Daniil plays? Is it moving him inside? Where do you think he ends up majority of the time, or is it just kind of play it and see where it goes?
Yeah, good question. It's funny. Like Jadeveon was Will Anderson before Will Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Like perfect against the run, needs to work on being a better pass rusher. Right? Maybe has some minor injury concerns early on in his career, but extremely versatile player. So with D'Amico and Rod, right, I'm kind of like, hey, just get a little freaky with it. Figure it out. Like, they got a few games. And, like, for Jadeveon, do we expect for him to play any preseason games? He's one of those vets where he's been in the league long enough to figure it out. But I am anticipating Houston kind of allowing Jadeveon to be that Swiss Army knife he's been his entire career. That's what makes him go. That's what he's been successful at. Why change it now? And has Houston had a depth player of Jadeveon's status? They haven't. So if you see the Houston Texans playing with a 7-point lead, which we hope they can play with a lot this year, I can see Houston and D'Amico Ryans and Matt Burke allowing Jadeveon to kind of just flow in the game and do what he does.
At this point, they've made the addition. We all knew, like you said, we've talked about it all off season long. It's one of the few positions where you look at the depth and you say, okay, maybe they could use a little bit of something there. But is this one signing? And I mean, for me, I think it's probably enough at this point. But is this one signing now enough to make you have less concern that, okay, the depth here isn't so bad? Or do they still need some? I know that they also bring back Mario Edwards on the defensive
inside
line
spot.
Yeah. But is this one addition good enough to ease your concerns of depth for the pass rush?
Absolutely. For the edge rusher, yeah, because now I look at that second line of defense having Jadeveon. And I also think that eases Dylan Horton, who may or may not make the roster, but that eases Dylan Horton back into a role where he's a fourth option, right? And he had some good moments last year for the Houston Texans. I thought he did very well against the run. And all things considered, the Houston Texans absolutely asked their edge rushers to play the run first. So I think that's where his strengths are. But adding Jadeveon is like the perfect buffer between your A-star studs and your guys where you like them, you trust them to do some things, but you know that if they play more than maybe a 15% of the defensive snaps, you may find yourself in trouble. So I think he's an excellent buffer between the two, and that eases the depth overall.
The next question, and I heard some conversation was from some people that, throughout the week about, obviously, look, the Texans are never going to get the biggest praise in terms of the national coverage. They're never going to get the most hype. The people that really are the football lovers that pay attention to all of the game know how great the Texans are in terms of defense and what they've done the last few years. I heard a lot of people sitting here talking about.
That's what we're for. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. I've heard a lot of people yapping about the Rams and the Rams being the best defense in football. I'm not saying that they're not good. I just don't think that they're as good as the Texans defense. You can bring back Aaron Donald. I don't care. They got Jadeveon.
I don't know, man. That's gonna be
pretty good.
That's gonna be scary.
Yeah, Texans Rams Super Bowl. You could actually sign me up for a 10-6 Super Bowl battle. I would not be mad at that at all. But do you think that there's any possibility? Because I think we always go into the season talking about this every year, and obviously this Clowney edition helps you even more, get even better. Well, like, is there a chance? Because at some point it happens to every team where one side of the ball doesn't meet an expectation. Like, is there any chance the defensive side of the football this year doesn't meet the expectation level that we have right now?
Help is the only thing stopping that unit. Like, and I think that defense, man, has maybe in the league the best combination of vets and young guys. Will's going into his fourth year, but on the other side, you got Daniil, who is a decade plus in. This is year 22, 23, 24, 25. This is year 5 for Stingley. On the other side, this is year 3 for Kamari. So, like, they kind of balance each other out. You look at the youth in Henry To'oTo'o, but experience in Aziz. And Kalen Bullock, he's a younger player, but Reed Blankenship is an older player. So they got, like, the perfect balance youth and experience, and I think that's going to really bleed over into how dynamic and dominant they can be on the field. The only thing that's going to stop this unit is health. An injury, an injury that you can't come back from, right? And also, I don't want to leave out Jalen Petrie, who is a phenomenal player, came in that same draft class as Derek Stingley, so this is his 5th year as well. And then I look at that same position, the down-in-the-box safety, nickel guy, and then I look at the youth in Kamari Ramsey, who was already making plays at training camp. So, health is the only thing that's going to stop this unit.
And Jalen Petrie now making history today. Being the first signature athlete for the Guardian cap.
Yeah.
He looks like a bobblehead out there.
I like that, man. He makes it look cool. Like, here's the thing. I don't think an offensive player could have made the Guardian cap look cool.
I don't think anybody can. It's a terrible look.
I think Jalen Petrie makes it look cool. For one, Petrie itself, he's a smaller frame guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like
it looks massive.
It makes him look a little bit bigger on the field. He stands out a little bit more. And because of how physical he plays, it's just like, oh, man, that Guardian cap, it ain't stopping nothing. He's still going to bring the hat. So I think Petrie and Derrick Henry are the only 2 players in the league that could have made it look cool. Houston Texans got Jalen Petrie. So shout out to him for getting that deal done.
Yeah. There are other guys out there wearing it in training camp. We'll see if any of them bring it out to the field in the regular season. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney will, just based off of what we do know. And again, if you've missed that news, he will wear. For those of you that have your Jadeveon Clowney number 90 jerseys, yes, it's a different look in the jersey, but you can whip it back out. It is still a valid jersey wearing the number 90 for the Texans and lining up somewhere across that defensive line. We'll see just how much he's playing this year. And I just say this, it's nice to have him here and know that Bill O'Brien's not his head coach. Maybe he'll have a more enjoyable experience this time. So there's that too. Let's talk about the running game. You mentioned it earlier, John. The running game is a big, big thought process in terms of who's going to do what, who's going to lead them where. And, of course, they want to run the football. We'll talk about that in a brief moment here on the Locked On Texans Squad show. Before we talk about that running game, though, let's talk about some baseball. Yeah, the baseball season is still going. Astros are rolling right now in the city of Houston. A trade deadline was today. They only made one edition. I'll be on later on tonight for the Locked On Astros postcast show if you're looking for some Astros talk. But baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers, another fun way to stay engaged through every game, every single day, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before that first pitch. Sometimes it's a hitter who's been on a hot streak, a favorable pitching matchup, or even a ballpark that tends to give up home runs. Those are always the first things that I'm looking for when I'm making my picks for my daily dinger pick. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. Texan Squad Show continues on a Monday night. Michael Connor and John Hickman here with you. John has sweated it out in the Houston Heat. How many more training camp practices you planning to get to, John?
I got about 3 left.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more. Still got to go to work. But I may have a few more this training camp. I'll tell you this, MCI, because I know you brought it up with preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be an incredibly competitive preseason period for Houston, probably the most we've seen in the Caserio era. Like, this team feels like they know they can win a Super Bowl, and they're not. They're going to avoid weak links. And I'm going to tell you who kicked this off, this thought process off for me, Will.
Okay, why?
So this was earlier, maybe in between like the OTA periods, where they asked Will about, do he believe this team can win a Super Bowl. Typically in the past, Texans players would say something along the lines of, coach don't want us to feed into their rat poison, or, we just got to play, practice every day at a time, play one day at a time, and things of that nature. Will came out and flat out and said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And also said, my job here, because they also asked him at the time, I forget what reporter, about kind of slowing down during practice. And he said, my job is to make everybody else better. They brought you in because they feel like we can win a Super Bowl with you. And if not, we got to weed out the guys who can't do that. And so that statement alone makes me feel like everything from Houston this year, starting right after they lost, has been so intentional on not having that same excuse they've had the last 3 seasons. Offensive line is bad, run game breaking down at the end of the year. There's no tight ends to really help Dalton Schultz out, and there's nobody to help out Nico Collins, or Nico Collins is hurt, and there's nobody else to step up. And how this offseason has looked so far, they've eliminated a lot of those possibilities to where at the end of the year we're having the same conversation.
To me, it feels, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because you hear the things that are said, and the narrative that's twisted around it. I do feel like they're playing. They're coming in at least with that chip on their shoulder, because I think that there are a lot of people that don't believe, and it really stems back to the quarterback, right? There's a lot of people that don't believe they can get over that hump. Like it's going to be one of those franchises, because there's a lot of teams that have this, right? That have these runs where they look so dominant and look so capable. I mean, hell, the team that the Texans are going to play in week 1 of the season is one of those teams where everybody always thinks, maybe this is the year that they do it. Maybe this is the year that they do it. They never seem to do it. The Texans feel like they could fall into that trap. It all leads back to the quarterback, but it feels, you're right. Like there just feels like there's something different. Like they're mad about the way it ended last year. Now, mad isn't going to fix the problems, but they give that vibe.
And look at it like this, man. I'm gonna go back down memory lane a little bit. In that Patriot game, and it was somewhat sad because you saw D'Amico seeing the slip away, but they were down a score, 4th and 10. And you saw a man that said, I cannot trout this offense back out there. I'm going to punt the ball and let the unit that I built up at least attempt to win us this game. Week prior, the defense scores twice.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of that game, I saw a coach, I saw a man, a former Houston Texans player that didn't get an opportunity to experience a lot of winning when he was around, now be the head coach, never got to the AFC Championship game. I saw him eternally say, I'm not going to feel like this again. He never said it, but we all know in sports, there's a look everybody gives when they lose that one game that they know this was the game that got away. And from that moment on, I think it's been D'Amico locked in and focused on, Kaylee, we got to get this thing together. Caserio, we got to get this thing together. Stroud, we got to get this thing together. Everybody, we got to get this thing together, because I know that we could have won that game. We were going to beat Denver. Super Bowl, here we come.
Yep.
So I like this. This is what I want Texan fans to kind of realize. I know we got to talk about the running backs and everything, but you gotta realize, and this is something that I really want to talk about. D'Amico is a madman in a good way, but D'Amico, I truly believe what's going to set him apart this year is all of that energy that was put into that defense, starting off last year, has been put into that offense. Now, his first year, the defense was okay. It wasn't great. The back half of 2024, that's where we saw that defense really ascend. 2025, that defense was the number 1 defense in the league, but it took 2 years. Okay. The back half of 2025, that offense came together a little bit. And so what I'm getting at is I think it's okay to expect this offense to be better this year because DeMeco is not going to allow it to look like it did in 2025.
And one of those things that makes it better in 2026 is obviously going to be an improved running game. Now, I guess you could go back, if you go back in the time machine last year and they knew that Joe Mixon was hurt, they didn't do enough to fix it going into the season. Like, that is a problem. You know, this offseason, they obviously go out, they make the trade for David Montgomery. You know, it's year 2 of Woody Marks. I know that that's caught the attention of you so far in training camp. It's caught the attention of a lot of people is the improvement of the running game. What did you see in your time out there? And what's the thought process and the things that have been said about where the running game is right now?
Direction and vision. Better. So when I say direction, I mean like the direction of the offense is. It doesn't seem like it's operating within a lot of chaos. Mm-hmm. And I think kudos to the guys that they brought in and Coach Popovich for coaching that offensive lineup to where it needs to be because they are allowing for some of those rushing lanes to really be there. Granted, this was day 1 of padded practice. A lot of things can change, but based on when they were not in pads and based on day 1 in pads, I think there's a lot of clear sign that this is just a better overall unit. But David Montgomery, I think, does a great job in helping that offensive line out because he's not going uber fast at the line of scrimmage. He's allowing for blocks to be set up. He is extremely shifty, runs low, runs hard, runs fast. And running backs like those, you typically see those guys pick up an extra 3 to 4 yards, right? And so I think that's really going to help the Houston Texans out this year. But Woody Marks, right? Last week, DeMeco Ryans was talking about how the run game needs to be improved, and he mentioned like things like vision and details. And so for Marks last year, like I don't think he had a back to help him in that area. I really don't. That's never really been Nick Chubb. He's been a bruiser type of back, and we saw a lot of bruising from Woody Marks in last year. Tough yards. Obviously, the offensive line was a reason before that because they just were not good. But with Montgomery, it feels like, number one, everybody's in shape. Montgomery's down 10 pounds. I don't know the number on Woody Marks, but he looks a lot slimmer. He looks a lot leaner. He looks a lot quicker and faster. But you're just seeing him, once he gets to the second level, not a lot of second guessing, knowing where to go, the part of the field, the angle he wants to take, and getting the field. And Jawad Jordan, I think, has been killing it.
How do you think the split looks when we get to the regular season? It's so far out. There's a lot of things that have to happen because this is the number one question. Now I'm fielding this question last night for my nephew because he's doing fantasy football and he's like, I want to take David Montgomery, but where do I take him? Because they want to run Woody Marks still. I'm like, dude, I think it's gonna be a pretty, I don't want to say an even split, but it's gonna be a decent number, like what, 60-40, something like that.
I would. So I'm considering all 3 running backs, and I would say, give or take a percentage or 2, but I would say along the lines of 50, 30, 20.
Okay.
I really do. I think they're going to really let Jawad Jordan run that ball more this year than they did last year. Keep in mind, like they already talked about expanding the route tree for Woody Marks and the expectation for him to be involved in the passing game a lot more this year. And we're starting to see that during practice, moving him around, a lot of motion. I think this will be a better screen game this year than it was last year. So I think we're going to see Woody Marks really get some opportunity in the passing game. I'll also just keep in mind, like the Houston Texans, the only, I think, position group that doesn't benefit from this is the tight end group and the offensive line, obviously. But they rotate a lot on both sides of the ball. And I think they do that with the intent of keeping guys as fresh and healthy as they can towards the end of the year. So I think we're going to see a multitude of opportunities for all 3 running backs throughout the year. But obviously, David Montgomery is going to lead the way. So it could look like 55, 25, and 55, 35, and maybe 10. But I do expect for us to see more of Jawar this year.
How improved is this going to be? Honestly, is this going to be a top? Is this a top half of the league rushing attack?
Don't do that. Don't put me on the spot like that already.
That's
I'll tell you what, it won't be 3.9 yards per carry.
Okay, yeah. Will it be 4.2? Can you get 4.2 out of it?
I think you can get 4.2 yards per carry out of this group.
Okay.
And I think I know that doesn't sound like a monumental difference, but it is. I mean, 4.2 yards per carry on average. You're looking at 2nd and 6 or a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. And that's something the Houston Texans didn't really get an opportunity to benefit from a lot last year. And when they were in short yardage situations, they weren't used to it and didn't have the personnel to be good in those situations. And now they do. So I think the biggest improvement we'll see, it will be yards per carry. I don't foresee this unit being 32nd, 31st, and 30th in the league in rushing this year. I really don't.
What about touchdowns? Because that's the biggest one to me. Because we know this team struggled last year with the red zone. And look, to me, the number one improvement that you can have in the red zone is being effective running the football in the red zone. Because when you get down there in the nitty gritty, when you need to just punch the thing in, this is what you have David Montgomery for, right? Like, this is the guy you have to put that ball in the end zone. Can they be a top half of the league touchdown team in terms of the running game?
We'll find out when the preseason gets here.
Yep.
That's it. That's the best way I can respond to that. And again, let's just say we get Davis Mills, Jawar Jordan, Fabichi Nuayu, Blake Fisher, Braden Smith, Evan Brown, just thinking of guys, Jared Patterson. Like, let's just say that's the unit. And let's just say that unit looks formidable, considering they're going to be playing backups as well. What we see out of them should give us some insight on what we're going to get out of the starters. Because I think everything is going to translate through and through on this roster this year. Style, physicality, speed, communication. I think it will be consistent from the bench players or backup players or depth players all on through the starters. And so if the depth players are good or the backups are good, I think the offense and the starters will be good too.
I'm with you there. And I think I'm most intrigued to see what the level of physicality looks like with that running game when they get there in that preseason. I got a couple more questions for you. We also have something that has been a topic quite a bit that I do want us to touch on for a brief moment, because there was another, I guess, semi-report about it this past week. We'll talk about it here on the Locked On Texans Squad Show. All right, it's our final segment of the Locked On Texans Squad Show. Michael Connor and John Hickman here with you. All right, so you've been out there a couple of times now. You got a few more practices to go see. Give the people under the radar names that you've heard or you've seen with your eyeballs that early on people in camp, whether it's coaches, players, other media members, are talking about that they have their eyes on in terms of anything that's popping so far.
Well, I'll say this for one. I've already said his name, Jawar Jordan. I mean, day one.
Yeah.
Day one. And now I'm starting to see more people talk about him. But day one, I said, wow, hey, Jawar, he's playing with a little bit of different wiggle, swag, and speed about himself. And then I'm also catching an eye on Woody Marks. Hey, this is Trent Brown's job to lose. Like when the Texans signed Braden Smith, we all penciled him in as a starter.
Yeah.
And I don't think Braden Smith has been bad, but
gave up a sack today, apparently.
Yeah, Will and Daniil.
Yeah, it's Will.
But so I've not gonna say covered, but I've been around in some capacity as a fan or media member Trent Brown for a long time, being as he is a former Patriot. And his thing about Trent Brown, when that money's on the line, get some good shape out of him. And we know that he signed a 1-year deal. Maybe he feels like he has some more years left to play in the league. And he is in shape. He looks good physically from top to bottom. Excuse me. He looks like he can dominate. And there was a run today that I saw on social media. I'm not sure how many people saw it. Keelan gets up to the second level after combo blocking. He goes to eliminate Azeez Al-Shire, which was a really good effort from him. But I saw Trent Brown gracefully moving up to the second line of scrimmage, where it didn't look like he was struggling. It didn't look like the weight was a problem. I mean, from feet to hips to hand placement, everything was just full of grace for a large human being. So I would say Trent Brown has been standing out to me. Outside of those two guys, been very hard to tell. I want fans to keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent out of Tennessee, defensive tackle Dominique Bailey. Last 2 years at Tennessee, combined for 8 sacks, I believe, in that 2-year span. Moved him around a lot over the tackle, outside of the tackle B gap. Has some quickness to him. I know they signed Mario Edwards, but remember the Houston Texans had about 5 or 6 D tackles on their roster last year. He could potentially fight to be one of those guys at the end of that depth chart, or maybe Houston looks to keep him around on a practice squad just in case they may have to break the glass one of them situations. But he stood out to me, and I even asked Matt Burke about him. He loved him so far in camp, and I think once we get to a preseason game, we'll learn a lot more about this young man.
I think that I'll keep, like you, keep the eye out on that offensive line spot specifically. Will be something that I'm looking forward to, and I'll let the experts tell me who's doing their thing or not doing their thing. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about, because we've not talked about it at all this offseason, John, is CJ Stroud. We've not mentioned his name at all. We barely actually, it's 46 minutes into the show, we've actually not talked about a lot, but Adam Schefter again the other day talked about the Texans are trying to get an extension done. Nick Caserio says there's a possibility that it could happen. He said that this is from Nick Caserio. We've had productive conversations over the course of the spring. There's a possibility that something could come to fruition. We'll work through it and see what happens. This is from the ESPN article. It says league sources tell ESPN that talks between the two sides haven't been significant in terms of an agreement being close. When asked if negotiations could linger into the regular season, Caserio simply said the team was taking negotiations one day at a time. If it does happen in training camp, then we'll have to make a decision on what we feel makes the most sense. Do you think there's any chance that before this regular season gets going, he's going to sign an extension? Because we keep hearing that they're trying, that they're talking. That's the one thing. For all the talk that we did about them not even going to talk about it, they sure seem to be talking about it quite a bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy here. I feel like at some point we're going to wake up to the news that he's signed an extension.
I think there's a chance. I say that because from my own understanding, I have believed that the Texans wanted to see some things out of CJ Stroud before football was even a question to ease their mind on signing him. And so I think the Texans have been taking everything in a phase with Stroud. Phase 1, OTAs minicamp. Phase 2, training camp. Phase 3 could be the regular season, but if he's checking off boxes in those first couple of phases, that could ease them into believing that he's on the right path and direction where they want him to be as a franchise quarterback, and maybe they can sign him. I would say wait till we play some regular season games.
That they do it, or that he does, or that
I would say for the Texans, it would probably be best to get all 3 confirmations. And the only way you can get all 3 confirmations are in a regular season game.
Yeah.
I mean, does that put Houston with their back against the wall? If he comes out and lights the world on fire, it does. But if he looks like that, do you really give a damn? You will openly pay. If the asking price from this agent is $57 million and he comes out in their first 4 months of football, and let's just say he's like 12-3 in terms of TD and interception ratio and 260 per game, and this offense is rolling, You think the Texans are going to care about paying that money? No. So I think it'll be a safe bet to get all, 3 confirmations before you move forward.
I think I keep going back. I keep thinking to myself, like, okay, yeah, it could turn into like a Tua situation. It could turn into one of those guys that you completely overpay and then you got to pivot on a couple of years later. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's better than those players that have had those situations pop up. But the more I keep going back to it, man, I'm just like, just get it done.
Just get it done.
It's going to cost you top 10 quarterback money right now. But like you're saying, if he comes out and he does light the world on fire, which would be a great thing, you're just putting yourself into a bind of even more money getting eaten up on your cap because his price is going to go up.
Yeah, but Philly has figured it out. LA has figured it out. Excuse me. Teams figure it out. This cap situation. The Saints for years with Drew Brees, they would figure it out. You'll be able to figure it out. I mean, the last 2 years, I think Caserio, as much flack as I've given him, one of his superpowers has been his ability to operate the salary cap. Excuse me. At the start of the last 2 seasons, the Texans were in the red, and when free agency period was going to kick off. When free agency kicked off, they made some moves, they maneuvered, and they got out of the red and were able to sign quality guys. He's been able to figure out the salary cap situation.
And that's been, sorry, I didn't. That has been an impressive thing. Like of all the, and that's the salary cap is such a phony thing too. Like I don't want to say it's a phony thing. It's just a thing that in the league we see. It's always manipulated. There's always a way to manipulate it. Yeah, you're going to end up biting yourself in the backside eventually with it. Like we saw, you mentioned the Saints a minute ago. Like eventually it all caught up to the Saints. They kept, circumventing that cap to the point where, pushing stuff down the road where it bit their backsides. Hopefully that doesn't happen here. At some point they will lose players because of the contract situations. We know that's going to happen. Like you're going to pay CJ Stroud a ton of money. You're already paying Will Anderson a ton of money. You might have to pay him even more money in a couple of years from now, to where it's going to affect you keeping all of your players. But they're just in this window right now where they can have all these guys. And that's why I think I just get back to, God, this is, last year was the year so far of these 3 years, but this year is really, without knowing what the AFC is going to look like, this year is so important, man. I think that this is the most important year of the CJ Stroud era until they can reset the cap later on down the road. Because there will be iterations. Like if he's here forever, this will be one iteration of a team. 5-6 years from now, it'll be a completely different look.
Yeah.
And they will have to go. We're watching the Kansas City Chiefs have to reinvent themselves with Patrick Mahomes through the years. Like that's going to happen here eventually.
Here's a fun conversation. If Kaylee takes that leap as a play caller, and gets into that realm of this guy is a very good play caller, you worry about losing out on players, and then you worry about losing out on another offensive coordinator.
If he's great this year, they lose him after this year. Let's be honest. Like if he's great this year, he's gone after this year.
I would wonder how close, if the Texans get close enough to that Super Bowl. Similar to Ben Johnson, like Ben could have left the year before before he left.
He was smart to where he jumped at the right job. He knew he could have any job again the next year.
True, but there were a 2 years period where Ben Johnson's name was when Bobby Slowick was hired. Ben Johnson's name was hot.
Mm-hmm.
So for Kaylee, if the Texans get close, like if it's an AFC Championship game and they fall short, can D'Amico and Caserio roll them back in, right? But that's the thing about the situation that Stroud is going through. Like if everything works out perfectly this year and they're just not able to attain that goal because it was just a better team, do they have to worry about another season of getting a new offensive coordinator? And hopefully they have somebody on the roster, on the coaching staff already that they kind of believe can fill whatever role Nick Cady leaves behind, if and when it happens.
It sure would be great. That would be look as awful as it would be to lose another coordinator. It'd be actually be a great thing for the Texans because that means they're really good this year offensively. Unless he, of course, stinks and they're firing him. But if like he was to walk away from the job, it's because they were great this year offensively, and CJ Stroud took that leap forward, and all those things happen that they want to have happen between now and the end of the regular season. All right, I'm going to give the people some parting shots here to close out the night.
Yeah, I would say preseason games are going to be extremely important again, like I already said. Here's a couple of names on the defensive side of the ball that I can't wait to see. I don't think we need to see Kamari Lassiter or Derek Stingley or Kalen Bullock or Reed Blankenship, but we will need to see Jalen Smith, Kamari Ramsey. We will need to see those guys. We will need to see Aiden Fisher, and I forget his name, the other Wade Woodens. We will need to see those guys in preseason this year. Jamal Hill as well, who he looks a lot slimmer as well. And this is his third year, so we should see him play at a higher level. So it's going to be important to see those guys, a nucleus on that defensive side of the ball, because they have some playmakers, young playmakers, but we need to see them be ready. I think the most important preseason game, obviously, it's always that one before the last week of preseason, but the Vegas Raiders game. That's going to be a very important preseason game. Because for Vegas, do they play Kirk Cousins a series or two, maybe a quarter? When do they put out Fernando Mendoza? So how will the Houston Texans defense and those young guys match up against him? I think that's going to be something we need to keep an eye out on.
Definitely be a fun one. It's just nice to have it back. For me, the parting shot tonight is look, people soak it in. It was a long spring, long summer. It always is when football is gone. The Texans have a very high expectation level this year. They're the best team in the city right now. We have good teams across the city. We've been very lucky for a very long time now to have good teams, but this is the best team in the city right now. And I don't know, man. Maybe it's just it's like when baseball season starts and they go to spring training and they say hope springs eternal. Well, summer springs optimism for me, and I'm just feeling it right now. I'm feeling like this is a Super Bowl season, and I hope I'm right.
Feel it.
Gotta believe.
You gotta
as Ted Lasso would tell you, believe.
I can feel it calling in
great
the
song.
air tonight.
Great song.
The Houston Texans in their 25th season as an NFL franchise. They're playing in their first Super Bowl.
We got to write. John is going to narrate the NFL film the documentary on their season. He's already got the script ready to go. That'd be great if it does happen. What will happen, John, is we will be back again later this week talking.
Yes.
It should be hopefully some more. We will have some more things to talk about what goes on the field. Hopefully, so fingers crossed so far. Nothing injury-wise going on out there on the field. There's been a lot of teams have been carting players off left and right. Nothing going on for the Texans at this point. Hopefully it stays that way. We can continue to talk about good things on the field. But we appreciate you guys stopping by and watching us live tonight. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, watch John's Daily Show, and come back later on this week when we're live right here on the Locked On Texans Squad Show.